And we are live. What's up, everybody? Daniel Allison, the average dude. My very first live broadcast without my cousin, Winny, who's on a vacation. So sometimes we've got to do things a little uncomfortable, new and different. But I started this idea. I had this idea about doing a podcast. I'd been doing conversations with the average dude, and I said, I really want to do it live. I thought that live would give that extra excitement. So, of course, I asked my cousin, Winny, to join me. She did, and we ended up having a great chemistry, had so much fun. Hello, Melissa Springer. Thanks for joining. And so now here we are as things evolve. Jeannie's on vacation. I'm in the driver's seat here by myself, so it's a little different when we don't have somebody that we're talking to. So what am I going to talk about? I want to talk with the audience, and Melissa, I see that you're there, but I wanted to talk about energy. Just did a LinkedIn video and was talking about energy and where energy comes from. If you Google, how can I have more energy? Man, I bet that gets Googled pretty doggone often, doesn't it? People want to know how they can have more energy, more positive energy. So, of course, we hear all the normal things, right? Exercise, and of course, you get you a good caffeinated drink, you're going to have a little energy, then you're going to have that crash. But I really think the thing that I enjoy is doing things that make me feel uncomfortable, that stretch me, that just like this, right? So Jenny Winnie's not here. My heart rate's up a little bit higher, and I think that's good for us. So I would love to ask Melissa, what is it that makes you nervous? What makes you uncomfortable, but at the same time gives you that necessary energy? You know, it's funny. I remember hearing a story of a boxer, and so a really tough guy, and the person that was telling this story was just an acquaintance of this heavyweight boxer, right? And he heard that he was having a discussion about his landscaper. He was upset that his landscaper had not done something the right way. So he's going to have a confrontation with his landscaper. So here you have this boxer that's nervous to make a phone call to a landscaper. So he hands the phone to his acquaintance and had him make the call. I just thought that was funny. There's all sorts of things that make different things for different people, right? This morning, I went to a new Toastmasters club. And if you've been on here for any period of time, you know that I've done Toastmasters pretty often, pretty regularly. And but this morning, we had to do something a little different, going into a new club. And I thought, well, I've been in so many Toastmasters clubs, and I walked in and all these new faces, all of a sudden what happens? The hands get sweaty, and ended up having a great experience because, again, anytime we kind of overcome ourselves and do something that makes us nervous, it's a good thing. Yeah, so confrontation. Melissa says that confrontation makes me nervous, but also gives me energy. Yeah, I would say that's confrontation also is out of my comfort zone. But sometimes we need to stand up for whatever the situation is. Sometimes people need to be called out. That's one of the things that we're going to be talking about later with leadership, right? So Will Grambling is going to be my guest. We're going to talk a little bit about leadership, the qualities that go into being a great leader. Certainly, we have to put our foot down from time to time. So that's one of the other question. I tell you what, we don't have many people commenting. That's all right. Thank you, Melissa. But what I would like to ask now is what makes a great podcast? There's a lot of podcasts out there, and my goal when I initially started Jenny Winnie and the Average Dude, I wanted to have an organic conversation, right? Where you don't necessarily have a script. You're not sure exactly what you're going to talk about. But the ones that I like, of course, Joe Rogan, he sits down with people, and of course he's drinking, so it might be a little easier. But he sits down with people. He has these long conversations and really is able to get into various various topics and have that organic conversation, just asking people exactly how they feel about things. Those are my favorite types of conversations. So was trying to kill a little time here in the beginning. That's a little tougher than I thought. But I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest today, Mr. Will Gramling. Will.
Free. How are you?
Good, man. See, I needed a little help. I saw you backstage. I said, we're going to have to go ahead and bring in Will. Man, really excited to talk to you. Known you for some time through F3. And I could actually remember mentioning to you.
Uh-oh. You there?
When I first met you, I said, Will, you would be great at podcasting because you got this wide. So I don't know, maybe they're doing some construction or something outside, but I know that you know about a lot of different things. You're witty, you're quick-minded. But what makes a great podcast in your mind? What do you like to listen to? What do you enjoy?
I tell you what I think. And I think podcast has been great for, and it was at a time we really needed it, is that if you get on the news and if you're on a news show, you've got about 90 seconds to make your point. And there's a lot more nuance to most things that are important than 90 seconds. And so if you're listening to a Joe Rogan, if you're listening to a Jocko, if you're listening to a Jordan Peterson, any of these things, when you sit down with a guy and you talk about a subject for an hour and a half, 3 hours, okay, you understand a little bit more about that subject, or at bare minimum, you at least understand where he's coming from, whether you agree with him or not. It's a much more real product. And if before podcasts, if you said people would sit down and listen to people talk for an hour and a half about a subject, I said, you're crazy, but I do it and you do it too. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So you like to, do you have a podcast, Will?
I don't. I can't figure out what I want to do one about. I love the idea, but I have not figured out where I add value.
Well, maybe after today, I think you add value in a lot of different ways. Maybe after today, we'll figure out exactly what he needs to do. So Melissa Springer, energetic tone, authentic, passionate about the topic discussed. I think those are all good things. And so as I'm preparing to talk to people, Will, I think about, well, I can ask the predictable questions, or I can ask kind of what comes to mind and that sort of thing. So sometimes finding that natural flow is important. It's easier said than done, though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, hey, I like this kind of comment before we get rolling here. Mr. Morris,
that guy.
Two great men. Love seeing you guys on the same screen. Hey, appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you know Dwayne?
I don't know that I do.
I do. He had the unfortunate experience of being my tennis coach my senior year in high school. Okay. And so the poor guy deserves a medal just watching me play. But he's a great guy, and he's actually he's written a book recently. Oh man, Dwayne, put the comment up there. It's something. Yeah. It's a Christian book, and it's something about a donkey, but I can't. I'm put on the spot. I can't remember it exactly.
Yeah, no, hey, that happens to me all the time. Let me ask you this: while we're talking about what makes a great coach, I'm sure you played sports in school. What was it that you thought made a great coach?
Okay, I'll tell you about my favorite coach. His name was Gene Stallard, and I had a lot of coaches. I played every sport that they'd let me play growing up, and he coached me, I think maybe even a little bit in football, but mostly baseball, which was by far my worst sport. But if you were going to grade coaches on how nice they were, he would be the lowest grade in the group. He was the toughest, meanest coach I had.
Wow. Okay. He was a face mask grabber.
Yeah, he was. But the difference with him versus other coaches that I've had is he was really mad because he knew you could do better. He was really mad because he had taught you how to do it right. So it wasn't, I see a lot of coaches now that are mad because it's hurting their reputation, or or they're just frustrated. Like he cared. He cared about how you played the sport, and he would he grab you by the face mask or I remember missing a ground ball in the outfield, and I just wanted to go home and get in the car before going back to that dugout. because I knew what was going to happen. But like almost all the kids that he ever coached, you knew he was that mad at you, but it was because he honest to goodness cared about what you were doing.
Yeah, I like that. What's interesting is you picked the coach. It doesn't sound like you were an incredible baseball player.
No.
But your favorite coach was in the sport that's kind of a surprise.
Yeah, and he did basketball too, which I had a higher love for basketball. I was a little bit better in basketball. I wasn't terribly great in any of them, but I was a little bit better in basketball. But it was the fact he had all the other things that coaches had. He had the knowledge, all that kind of stuff. But even when you were scared of him, you knew he gave a damn about what you were doing and about what was there. You can accuse people of a lot of things, but phoning it in was not one of his.
Yeah, he was there to do his job, and he took it serious, and he wanted the kids to win. It sounds like on a personal level.
That's right.
Yeah, I've thought about that. I didn't play sport. I went to homeschool, so I didn't get that coaching aspect of sports. But I've often thought about what would be and I think I'm like you. I think somebody that holds you accountable and doesn't let you half-ass it, right? I mean, somebody that's going to get the best out of you. Is really what makes a great coach. So the name of the book,
Chasing Donkeys. There it is. I could. Sorry, Dwayne. I couldn't pull it off the top of my head, but now you got to put it up on the board. So that's
absolutely. Well, great. I'm glad that Dwayne had a chance to join us and check out the book, Chasing Donkeys. So now, Will, you have kids of your own, and I guess do you do some coaching through the Little League and that sort of thing? I know both kids play sports.
I did, and I'm past that. They're both in the high school level now, and so I never coached my daughter, but I did coach my son through football and basketball until he got into the school system. And I tell you, man, it's a lot easier to sit in those stands and talk about what a coach is doing wrong versus figuring it out. It's another animal when you do it. Hey, if you're coaching 10-year-old kids, God bless you. That's all I can say. The hardest part is just getting. I remember trying to square away these offensive linemen, and I look over my shoulder, and one of the kids is doing a Fortnite dance. and it was good that I just didn't drop kick him on the spot. That's what I wanted to do. And so to capture a 10-year-old's interest in sports and to keep them with them, but get people that do it, God bless them. It's tough work.
Yeah, and I would imagine keeping them interested and also keeping parents that maybe once they get a little competitive, the parents get pretty intense, don't they?
They do. They do, and every parent's kid is the next LeBron James or Deion Sanders or whatever. It's but that I'll tell you this. Maybe it was the Army or whatever. That was the one thing I was relatively immune to. Is like it did not heckling from the field or whatever, but for the fact that they weren't there, they weren't on the field and saw how their fantastic kid would rather do Fortnite dances than learn his job. So them telling me that I can't coach, I was like, okay, whatever. So that I may be a rare breed in that, but the disappointed parents didn't ever really bug me.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I did have one experience. I never did any coaching, but I coached my kids just for a brief period of time doing YMCA soccer league, right? Of course, there was young kids. I'd never played soccer before. I just got kind of pushed into this position. That was the toughest thing. Forget about doing a podcast or some of these things. That for me, especially never being coached before myself, I didn't know, but fortunately I had one of the parents that kind of helped me out and helped me get things going. But have you ever coached soccer before, Will?
No, because that's the same thing. That soccer did not exist in my youth, at least where I grew up. And
same way with me.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. My daughter played a lot of it and I enjoyed it, but no, that one I got to dodge.
Yeah. Let's see what Dwayne has. He says a wise parent coaches their kids in the mind game, how to think like a winner. Let the other coaches teach skill, strategy, and execution. Well, there you go. It's kind of a mindset deal, right?
Yeah.
So want to talk a little bit about your family history. If people are from around here, I was driving up, went past Village Greens. Of course, I played golf a lot out at Village Greens when I was younger. But I was going up into Landrum, and of course, I passed Grambling Brothers Real Estate.
There you go. There you
And
go. I'm sitting in it right now.
I've seen it. There you go. And so I've seen it through the years, and of course, I didn't know you. So tell us all a little bit of the history of Grambling and your family, and how you have a little town here in South Carolina named after your family.
Okay. All right. I'll give you the short version. A number of great grandfathers. This is well over 100 years ago, probably 150 years ago, I would guess, somewhere thereabouts. He was a wheelwright, made wheels for wagons, and ended up getting the contract for the railroad ties as they ran the railroad through this area, from kind of coming up from Columbia all the way up the Saluda Grade, the whole distance. Well, as he was doing it, they were laying ties. It got to the point that he needed a new logistics hub, and so he built a depot here. And so at first it was called Grambling Depot because it was a stop. And just like anything else, since that was a train stop, a community sprung up around that called Grambling Community. And that's how it kind of got to be established. So we started, I guess, in the train business in an early day, really the lumber business, I guess.
The lumber business, but I just want to stop you there for a second. I mean, it's interesting because I did watch something on a History Channel, talking about how the railroad and you have to build the tracks, right?
That's right.
And you have to get things across the country, and just watching that spider web. So one of your distant relatives there, what did you say, great grandfather?
No, this is probably three greats, probably.
Yeah, three greats. But I'm not going to pinpoint it exactly. But that's interesting. So he sets up a Grambling depot, and then we start kind of growing from there. So go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So since that, and the big business in South Carolina at that time was agriculture, and so agriculture sprung up around it. Initially, we had a cotton gin and we had a general store. And so, and they were within probably, 40 feet of each other. So the guys who grew cotton would bring their cotton in, and they would sell it to the gin, and then they'd walk over to the old store, and it was a true old general store, diapers to coffins. It was Walmart. It was Walmart in 1922.
Wow,
so it was as close as they came to doing that. And so then they would spend their money there. Then they'd go back with their supplies to their farm, and then eventually cotton fell out of favor. And my grandfather was one of the first handful of guys to bring peaches to upstate South Carolina.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Brought peaches, and then so that's where the transition into real estate came from the peach farm.
It did a little bit later. My father started the real estate portion of it, and he started that in kind of the mid 80s. It was kind of interesting. Farming was already starting to kind of, I wouldn't say go away, but it was transitioning. And this was also when interest rates were like 18%.
Yeah.
And so the way my dad got started is he started helping these farmers break up their farms into parcels and sell them off at auctions. And the farmers were doing owner financing at like 10, 11%. To these people. So it was cheaper than the banks, but the farmers were still getting a great return. And so from like 84 to 88 or something like that, that was big business. And we did a lot of it. And then from there, we spread it into subdivisions and just brokering land, all the different parts of real estate.
What are some of the things that you learned watching your grandfather, watching your dad, these businessmen, farmers? I've always just thought that farmers they just know how to adapt, and it just seems like a very real business is the only way I know how to describe that. It's very, hey, you've got to grow it, sell it. I don't know. I just think that it encompasses a lot of the things that are beneficial for us all. What were some of the lessons maybe that stood out to you, things that you took from your family line there? Anything that comes to mind?
If you work in farming, one of the major rules is you have to worry about everything you can control, but you can't worry about what you can't control.
Oh, wow.
And so because the weather at the end of the day, there's, if the peach blossoms, so, kind of like we just went through where we had this weird cold snap last week.
Yes.
We're not as exposed to it anymore because we don't really farm hardly any peaches anymore. But, there's nothing you can do to protect those blooms from the cold if it comes.
Yes.
And so, I heard stories about my grandfather, going, in the shower the morning after it happened, and he's whistling in the shower because it wasn't our fault. You might as well just keep on going because there was absolutely nothing you could do to stop it. Now, if you lost a farm because you didn't fertilize it properly, if you lost a farm because you didn't prune, if you didn't do the things that you were supposed to do, then that's on you. But the weather, you can't sweat it because you can't control it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it's so easy to do to get worried about things that we can't control. When I know that I'm better off when I just control the things that I know that keep my things like exercise and going to F3 and doing those things that we can control helps us deal with those uncontrollables, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Do not waste energy on things that you cannot affect. Point your energy on the things that you can do. You can, switching over to our lives today, you can exercise, you can control what you eat, you can develop your business. Those things you can do. But, I don't, as much as I watch them and pay attention, I don't really sit around fretting about interest rates because the Fed is not calling me asking my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I love that. Now, Jenny Winny, she jumped in here with the trivia question. Who invented the cotton gin? I don't know.
I got nothing.
I got nothing either. Jenny, of all, you got to give us something where we can actually get it. I mean,
just make us look dumb, Jenny. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. She may not make it back on here with me. I am so upset.
Isn't she on a train? Tell her to focus on riding a train.
That's right. If you're going to say something nice, just keep it to yourself, Jenny. So I want to go back. So I know you were playing sports in school, and then you got a decision to make. Where am I going to go to college? And what am I going to do with my life? Right. Yeah. And so can you tell us about that period of your life and how you decided on where you wanted to go?
Yeah. I ended up going to Wofford College, which was a grand total of probably 15 miles from my house. And I did not want to go there because of that reason. And my family's gone there. I think I'm third generation to go there. The reasons. I don't want to be like everybody else. It's too close to home, all that kind of stuff. And then I went for a weekend and met the people and really liked the people. And I knew when I left that weekend, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
And then the same thing while I was at Wofford, the same thing made me pick the fraternity that I did. And the same thing, I ended up going ROTC and was an officer in the Army after I finished college. And it took me, by the way, people, his name is not the average dude. His name is Freon.
That's right.
He has mislabeled himself. So if you hear me calling him Free, that's what we call him. So you're just going to hear
that's right. We've got it. And this is Lieutenant Dan, people. This is LTD. And so that's how we know each other. So go ahead, LTD.
All right. So going back to it, it took me a long, and this is about as good a business advice or life advice as I can probably do. It took me a long time to figure this out. It's really about the people. I realized after I was in the Army for a while, the Army was fine. I jumped out of airplanes, drove tanks, got to do some of the really cool, fun stuff, and that was all great. But if you sat down, if I really say, but there was a ton I hated. I hated the bureaucracy. I hated the hurry up and wait. I hated all that, the lack of control you had over your life while you're in there. So I sat down one day and I really thought about it. I was like, why the heck am I here? Why is it attractive to me? If I don't like these 9 things, what is it that I like about it that keeps me here? And it's the people. And I liked soldiers. I liked those guys, and I like guys in the combat arms side. They're a little bit rough around the edges. They tell jokes that you probably can't say on this podcast if you want to stay on. And but they always had your back. They usually they called it as they saw it. I love that part. I like hanging out with those people. And that was, that's what I finally figured out is the Army was one of those places that I could hang out with those people. So I like being there, even though there's a lot of it I didn't like, but I like soldiers. I liked, that's the reason I went in the fraternity. I like those guys. It didn't have anything to do with the colors on the shirt or anything like that, what their Greek letters were, but it was all like, I like those guys.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to figure that out, because I kind of just kept doing it without really sitting down to parse out why. And I said, well, that was the only common denominator. I was like, these are the idiots that I like to hang out with. Same thing with F3. If F3 was not the group of guys that are here, F3 works because the kind of guys that'll get up early in the morning to go work out are typically the kind of guys I like to hang out with.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
If it was a 6:00 in the afternoon club, I think it would be a different group of guys that I might not necessarily like as much. It's the guys that are willing to do that and kind of crack jokes about how stupid it is to be up that early. That's my people.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the same way. I know you probably can look back. You had these teams when you were in Little League. You went to Walford, had the fraternities, I'm sure, and things like that. But being around a variety of different personalities, and we've got that in F3,
right,
that have different strengths and weaknesses, and everybody kind of contributes to the whole, and you just kind of find your spot, your kind of slice of the pie. I'm like you now, but I would like to ask you some of the, probably I think in the Army, some leadership training, and you are responsible for a lot of different things, and you're the kind of leader of this F3. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but tell us about the military. I would like to know the first time jumping out of an airplane. I've done that one time. What was that like for you?
It was, I tell you, the funniest part of it was it's 3 weeks of training, and they beat the crap out of you during that 3 weeks. It's very physical. It's very, very physical training. The PT is hard. The black hats is what we call them, because they all wear black baseball caps. They're there to mess with your head and mess with you. So it's I think I lost in 3 weeks. I think I lost 20 pounds.
Oh, wow.
There. And I wasn't that big back then, but
this is just regular Army kind of, everybody that's in the Army is going to go through this.
Yep. I actually was still in college, and so I was what they called a cadet, which is by far the worst thing in the Army, because everybody hates you, and you don't have officer rank yet. So those guys that you're going to be bossing around, this is their last chance to get a shot. No. So that was an interesting dynamic to live through. That was probably
interesting. That is interesting.
But so we go through all this training. By the end of the 3 weeks, you're just like, put me on the stinking plane. I don't even care if you give me a shoot or not. I just want to be done. I'll jump out of the planes just to be done with this.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there, and the guy sitting beside me looks at me, and he goes, this is the first airplane I've ever been on. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I was like, you're jumping out of the first plane you've ever sat on. He said, yep, I've never been on one before, and I'm jumping out of it. And
wow, that's cool.
That was really cool. And I was like, well, how do you feel like that? And he's like, well, I'm scared to death. I'm like, well, I am too, if that makes you feel any better. But it was kind of, and that's what's cool about the Army is that guy and me were sitting beside each other, and a lot of, just like you said at F3, there's a lot of different thoughts and personalities that are in that group.
Yes.
So that was great. The Army, the one thing Army does for leadership is it inoculates you. It forces you to deal with being a leader, and so you don't have a choice. And some people go through and it doesn't work well for them. There's some people that that's another thing, is that everybody's a leader of something, even if it's just themselves. And there's some people that should only be leaders of just themselves. It's just, and that sounds hard and evil or whatever, but that is but it's just not their nature. They're not a natural leader of other people. And it's not a criticism. It's some people are and some people aren't, just like some people are firemen and some people are fighter pilots. It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. But what the Army does, and I saw it make good leaders out of people that may not have been, is especially on the officer side. Because if you're going to do it, if you're going to be on that officer side, you're going to have to get up 1,000 times and make presentations. You have to build plans, and you have to present them to people that are going to ask a lot of questions. And it's in a relatively low risk atmosphere, because you're doing it 15 times a day when you're training. And so even if you're first one, that let's say you were out for a week of training, let's say in your Monday you've got your first run. If it went horribly, we did something called an AAR, which is an after action review, where at the end of it, your presentation, how you ran the drill, everything, they come back and say, this is what you did wrong. Here's, I didn't understand this. You weren't clear here. You didn't delegate all that stuff. And during that week, you'll do it 10 or 12 more times.
Wow.
And it does two things. One, it refines, you actually learn what to do, what works and what doesn't work. But the other thing is I have zero problem with public speaking, because it literally I've done it a billion times in the military. Finally, you're just not scared of it anymore. You're just like, okay, I've done it so many times. It's just like jumping out of an airplane. Now, I only jumped 5 times. And
okay.
I was, about wetting my pants every time.
Yeah. Now do you pull the cord, or is it one of those deals where you jump and it whoop?
No, you're hooked to the line, and so you're in, and basically you get over what's called the DZ, which is the drop zone, and it's a gigantic flat field. And when you get over that, just like in the movies, the little light turns green, and people start running. I mean, my nose is in the back of the guy in front of me's helmet, and you're just chugga 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 coming out of that door as quick as you can.
Yeah.
But those guys, I'm sure the guys who have 150 jumps, it's just another day at the job for them. They have inoculated themselves to that fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you hit on a lot of things there. I think that as far as leadership goes, and you're alluding to, some people are born leaders, some people are born followers, right? Maybe it's just environmental. Maybe it's just who they're around and their upbringing and that sort of thing. They don't know how to be a leader. And I'm speaking from experience here. Again, I didn't grow up playing sports. I wasn't in the military. I went to homeschool. So F3 for me is like leadership training, right? Because you've got to stand up in front of these guys early in the morning, and you've got to say, all right, boys, follow me, right? And that makes me more nervous than any. That's why I don't do it a lot, by the way. So don't get on my face. But it makes me nervous because it's new to me, and I think a lot of times that's what it is. I know that there are some great leaders. We got a great group of guys, right? We've got great leaders and people that have done it on a regular basis, and we tend to see those people stepping up. But maybe I'll let you comment on that. And there's something else I wanted to say.
Yeah, it's I did tell this. I mean, you've we call it when you lead. It's called being the cue. And you've been the cue quite a few times. You tell me from the very first time to the last time you did it, I've got to believe your comfort level was exponentially higher than it was from the first one.
It was, Will, but it's one of those things. So I end up having these periods in between cues, like too long of a period, kind of what you're talking about.
And it resets itself a little bit.
Yes. I kicked that rock down the road. And so then it's like brand new all over again. Like you were saying in the military, in the Army, you guys were, you were doing your thing, and then you were doing it again like the next day. Right. And it's so that inoculation, I like that word, came from just getting the reps. So if we had a Q day where we're just going to force Freon to go through the reps and to you know what I mean? That would be, that would get me more used to it. But I have these long delays and I want to feel good. I'm one of these people where I like to kind of go with my energy, right? And if I don't feel, I know you hurt your shoulder on Tuesday.
Yeah. Still hurting a little bit.
Yeah. But I like to, if I'm not feeling good or feeling like pushing it, so to speak, then I think, well, my goodness, I don't want everybody following me when I don't feel it. How do you do that? How do you leave when you're not feeling it? Maybe that's a good question.
That's a deep question, man. You've got to, and I can tell you this, there's been times that, I woke up the morning knowing I had to cue and it was not feeling it. Now, Tuesday, something popped and I had a problem.
Yes.
So
you were there.
I was there. I was ready to go. But I knew within about 2-3 minutes after it popped, that I was like, if I keep going, it's going to get worse. So but just waking up and oh man, this bed feels comfortable this morning is another animal. And that's the leadership side of it. A lot of times when we're talking about, at the end of F3, when we're talking about things, I talk about the discipline of F3, because motivation is not always there. There's many a time I'll wake up in the morning, and a lot of times I'll even wake up before my alarm, but I'll be laying in the bed going, man, this bed is nice, and it's like either Freddie or Jason Hand, somebody that's going to take us to Wofford and make us run the stairs for like an hour, and I'm sore for like 3 days after that, and so I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm already feeling sorry for the thing that has not happened yet.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, all right, well, I'm gonna put my feet on the ground, and let's go, and so the guys that just show up when they don't feel it, whether they're queuing or not, that's a form of leadership. But I've found that if I wake up and I'm not feeling it, and I'm the cue, that by the time we finish the stretches, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Like, all right, well, I'm in it. It's kind of like you're on that plane. When you're on that plane and airborne, there's only one way off, and it's out the door while it's in the air. And so you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm there. It's go time, and 99 times out of 100, I feel better and glad because I did.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I love the idea of the plane. So I jumped out of a plane, like I say, one time. I committed. I said, I'm jumping out of a plane. Just like I don't make a game time decision about F3. I decide the night before, am I getting up or not? Because I'm not going to feel like it. I'm not
exactly.
But I'm going. I mean, so I think that committing to whatever it is, and just like this, the podcast. Oh, Jenny's not going to be here. Well, we're doing the podcast, and so I don't know exactly how that's. We're doing it anyway. We're going to jump out of the plane. There's only one way off, like you said, and sometimes, and maybe you could talk about this. It was a tandem jump for me. So I'm interviewing the guy. Basically, I'm just asking him questions. I want to make sure I don't know, that he's not on something. He's done this before, And so I'm asking him all the questions, and he was super good. He was a pilot. He knew his stuff, so I felt more comfortable with it. I trusted him, right? So then we go up. He keeps me calm. And when it was time to jump out, I wanted to grab the bar, right? And he said, "Do not grab the bar." So I had to let go. But my point in saying all that is sometimes we need people to fly us up that know more than we do, whatever the case might be, and to give us that little push. Is there anybody through your military career? Was it your parents? Was there someone that helped you to grow and maybe in leadership, maybe in other ways that maybe a mentor of some kind? Is that something that you have?
I guess on the leadership side, it's been a combination. I wouldn't say there was a single person. I think the military, if you just say the U.S. Army, had probably as much to do with it as anything. And like I said, just for those reasons I listed before, it's especially if you're on the officer side, or well, I'm gonna speak to the officer side. I'm not going the enlisted side. I can't speak for because I wasn't on it. And don't get me wrong, I was a smart lieutenant. I let the enlisted run the Army. I just helped them do it. And so there is vastly, as a matter of fact, there's more leadership on the enlisted side in a lot of ways because they're dealing with more people. Basically, an officer, the officer had to work with 5 or 6 enlisted guys, and those 5 or 6 enlisted guys probably ran depending on the size of the unit, another 30 to 200 more enlisted people. And so if you want to know who the real leaders are, the ones that had to run all those people. We were kind of the officers are more the administrators, and the enlisted the sergeants. They're the day-to-day boot on the ground leader at the front of the group, saying, "Here's what we're going to do."
Yeah,
and it's important to learn. It was important to understand that. But as far as going back, I'm sorry, got off track a little bit. Your question was, but I would say the military was the greatest on that. And I mean, it was a little bit of everything. Sports, being on a football team, was one of the captains of the football team.
Yeah.
In my fraternity, I was one of the officers in that. The main thing for somebody who's wanting to do it, you're not going to develop leadership ability refusing to take any leadership roles. Because it's all just theory. It's all, you can read all the books. Kind of like those people in the stands talking about how I'll be able to coach 10-year-olds. Well, come on, go get it. There's another team over there. Go coach them. Let's see who's better. I'll coach against you. We'll see who wins.
That's it.
But that's I think the main, and this is what I talk with this about my kids. I talk to other people is go get in the mix. go see how it works. And I think that's the most important part of leadership, or figuring out if you're, are you a leader from the front? Are you a spot? Are you a leader that likes to be, are the CEO of the company? Are you the COO, the guy who's, kind of working on the gears in the background? You start realizing which type of leader you are.
As you're talking there, I'm thinking about that kind of organizational breakdown of the military and the Army specifically, and everybody's answering to somebody, and
That's right.
and everybody is part of the whole, but you've got to find your spot. And now you're leading these guys, and you're being led by someone else. I think that those are really good lessons, life lessons about how it really is, because we're all answering to somebody in some capacity.
There's always another boss.
Yeah, absolutely. So wanted to talk about too, I guess you're quite the entrepreneur. You've tried a lot of your hands in a couple of different things. I like what you said on, nothing else that I can think of, I think is what you said on your LinkedIn profile. But tell us about some of these. Let's start here. I remember you told me one time that you started a book. You had a book or something like that you did for Wofford.
Yeah, it's funny. It started out, I did it kind of on a lark for my kids. When they were little, they were probably, I don't know, 5 and 3, 6 and 4, somewhere around those ages. They're a lot older than that now. It was how Wofford saved Christmas, and it was basically like the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" poem, but it was, Santa gets in trouble and Wofford has to come help him and everything, and really just made it for them. And actually had to go through 2 revisions. The first one I didn't like as much. The artwork was really kind of dark. But when I went and did the second one, and when I got done with it, I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. And so I put it out there to the public, and have considering Wofford's a very small school, I've sold a decent number of the books. And so,
Yeah.
and I am not an artist. I am not a poet. As a matter of fact, a guy I know's daughter, who was, I think at the time, I think she was either 15 or 16 years old at the time, illustrated the whole book.
Wow.
I would literally draw stick figures, and I was like, this is what I want the scene to be. And I wish I could have loaded up some slides to see it. She did a smashing job. I mean, she's a really good artist, and did it better than even in my head was going to be. But and it was just kind of a lark on the side. I mean, at the end of the day, it's beer and pizza money is what it ends up doing, because it's that small of a thing. But it's one of those things it was going to bother me till I did it, kind of thing. It stuck in my head and rolled around in there for a while. That I was like, I got to try.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I'm just thinking about it. I think creating anything that other people want to, it doesn't matter if there's 2 people, 1 people listening to us right now. To me, creating something, packaging it up and saying, hey, I'm trying to provide something of value, and anybody saying, yeah, I like this, thank you, I will pay you for it. That's pretty cool.
It is. And just like you doing this, you are putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, we can't take this back, what we're doing. It is on there. And if we do terrible, everybody knows we're terrible. If we do great, they know it's great. And it's just it's the same thing. It's the people, it's not my mindset, but the people that are lifelong artists or creators are fascinating to me, because I guess they get inoculated to that risk too, because it's hard. It's hard to create something and say, this is my precious little thing. Do you like it or not? Here it is. Let me show it to you. Do you like it? Yes, no, whichever way way they think. It's about as exposed as you can be.
Yeah. Now that's tough. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you're right. I love the live, because there's no second guessing this. I'm one of these people. Sometimes I can second guess if I do one of those LinkedIn videos, and I've gotten a little better with this, as you say, but you're putting yourself out there, and rejection doesn't feel good. It's tough enough. It's a competitive world there. And sometimes we just feel like overwhelmed, but so the validation, the feedback, even if it's a small numbers, feels good, because it makes us feel okay. But what do you think about, I guess you already did answer it. The way we get over it is just by doing it more often. Is that it?
And yeah, I think that's the number one thing. Every time it gets easier, and like you said too, don't wait too long in between, or your immunity wears away a little bit.
That's right.
So we'll be signing you up next week, by the way.
I know. And that's a great thing. That's the guy that's going up in the plane with me. You know, some people, I think it's good to kind of, you know, I'm going to mention that to you. Now you're going to make sure that I keep doing it, right? So it's kind of like, hey, because I know ultimately it's good for me. I want better leadership skills. I want to improve and get more comfortable and do things that challenge me, right? So that I can grow instead of your whole life saying, oh, well, my upbringing, I didn't have a chance to. No, man, I'm still here, right?
Right.
I mean, I've got to challenge myself and grow in areas where I'm weak. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Right.
So,
and I think, you know, on the whole, often people are often waiting on a leader. And when I say leader, I mean somebody that says, I'm going to do this. Do you want to do it too? You know, and that's all F3 is. Hey, you know what? I'm going to work out at 5:30 in the morning because that's the only time that belongs to me. Do you want to come do it too?
You're right.
It's that simple. And I think, and I bumped into this my whole life. There's people, a lot of times people are just milling around for somebody to walk over and say, let's go this way.
Yes.
You know, and then everybody, you know, and they'll be great. They'll be fantastic. But they needed one nut job to come in there and say, let's climb Everest. You know, there was a bunch of people wanted to do it. They just needed one person to say, I think we can do it if we bring oxygen with us. And somebody said, yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Let's go try that.
That's right.
Think about that. The first dude to jump out of an airplane looked at a bunch of his buddies like, I think we can jump out of this thing.
Exactly.
You know, he found a couple of people that would agree with him.
Yeah. I mean, that's an excellent point. And you do an excellent job of that. I think from a leadership standpoint, you allow folks to, so just speaking specifically about F3, you allow people to lead themselves. But then, as I was talking about in the beginning, sometimes you got to put your foot down. We had a situation with somebody with material being passed out at F3, right? He's probably not watching, so we can talk about it. But that was a situation that I can think of where it's like, okay, somebody has to tell this person that you can't do that, right?
Yes.
And that could turn into confrontation that's not comfortable, right?
Well, as we say, everybody wants to be a gangster till it's time to do gangster things. And so that was a tough situation because the guy, I'll give everybody the short story without telling too much detail. The guy had some very deep, very specific political views, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But on Saturdays after we would work out, we would go and we go have coffee and we hang out and talk about football or politics or whatever. We talk about whatever.
A lot of things.
A lot of things. And so, but this guy, it was getting to be, he was dominating the whole thing with that. And to the point that he was like handing out flyers and things like that. And so it had gone too far. To be honest, it wasn't really his belief because, you know, there is a very broad spectrum of guys at F3. We've got infrared to ultraviolet. We've got, and everybody gets along smashingly. But what I saw this guy is he was turning up. We were heading towards a problem. We weren't there yet, but he was going to lead us into a problem that it was going to cause people not to come because of the situation. And so I had, you know, didn't want to do it. I wasn't excited about it, but he and I had a sideline conversation. I said, look, man, we're glad you're here. All right. But you got to tone this down. I'm like, because you're taking over the event and we're becoming an audience for you. And I said, so we've got to change this. And I hate it because we never saw the guy again. You know, we ran. I guess I ran him off. I didn't. That's not what I intended.
Yeah, we didn't see him again. But it's the group over the individual, and he learned that, right? I mean,
I hope he did. I hope he did. Like I said, I would have. It would have made me so happy that if he would have continued to come. Like I said, I didn't want him. I didn't want him to change his opinion. That's not what I was asking for. It's just that he was. It was becoming his event versus our event.
Yeah, no, I agree. And everybody, you know, we, as you said, we've got a lot of different opinions, but everybody's respectful of each other. It's not it's not over the top. So we can have a little bit, but not extreme.
Right. Well, it's not the F3 debate club. That's not what we are.
Right.
And so, and we're men getting together and congregating and fellowshipping, and that,
Yes.
and it's not, trust me, you can back me up on this. It's not that there's a shortage of political discussion there that doesn't
That's
come
right.
up, but
Yeah.
but he was going beyond the civil side of it.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of got unhinged.
How did you? I had another direction, but I'm curious about how did you get started in F3? How did you start the Spartanburg F3?
Okay. All right. So this once again ties back to the military. I had, when I was in the Army, I got mobilized to Fort Jackson in 2005 to 2007. The chaplain that I had there was a great guy. We were good friends. And this was after I got home, probably 6 months after I got home, I get a call from him. And he says, there's this thing in Charlotte called F3. He goes, you're going to love it. He said, it's right up your alley. And he said, when it gets to your place, you need to be part of it. And so, got online, started following it. It wasn't here yet. It was in Greenville. It was as close as Greenville. Okay. And so, but it was probably, I don't know, maybe another 6 months or so after that, the Greenville people announced, hey, we're starting one in Spartanburg. And so I immediately reach out to them. I'm like, I'm here to help out. They're like, we'll see.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll see if you show up. There's a lot of people say they want to help, but so once again, got out of bed, and I've been kind of the closest thing to a leader or administrator we've had since then.
Yeah, and we're coming up on how many years now?
This will be 8 years, I think.
Wow,
it'll be 8 years. So that's not nothing.
No, it's not. And it's been, I just cannot overstate. I talk about it, what I'm kind of doing is going through all these different ponds of my network. And right now I'm in the F3 pond. So I've talked to a lot of our F3 guys and could keep going. I mean, there's so much talent, so much just right in that group. But it's been so impactful for me from the discipline, all the things you got from the military: discipline, leadership, learning new things, perspective, finding your place. I mean, it'd be hard to find that in anything else. I mean, you can't go to the gym and get that.
Right. Well, so, and men need other men.
Yeah.
And we're horrible at it. We're naturally terrible at it because we're working, we're doing all these other things. And so, and hanging out with other guys at the business after hour, it's not the same thing. No. Men need to get together on a social level and mentor each other. I can mentor you on something, you can mentor me on something else, and that's that's why we say that iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
And we're sharpening each other. I mean, you're one of my favorite stories. Do you remember when we accosted you at the coffee shop?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
I mean, for y'all don't know, Free was he was just made the mistake of being at the coffee shop that Saturday when we all showed up. And we're sitting there looking over at this guy, and they're like, well, he looks like he likes to work out. And like 8 of us went over there. I don't know if he thought we were going to mug him or what, went over there and started talking to him. And he thought we were bananas, but he was curious enough to come out. And, and it's been with us ever since. And so that's what it's for.
That's been huge. And you make another excellent point there. You can't get that a business after hours. Of course, I've been in sales my whole career. So I've done those sorts of things. Everybody's got on that nice social mask. You're having a beer, you're all dressed up, and everything's just, that's not real life. Real life is at 5:30 in the morning doing push-ups. Everybody is in their workout gear, right? I mean, there's no status there. There's nothing but, hey, you're alive, you're a human, and you're exercising with a bunch of guys.
It's hard. It's hard to be fake when you're choking down vomit doing burpees. Hard to present yourself as something you're not. If you're not.
That's right. So. Exactly. Yeah, I remember Bartman had the first cue, and I thought, my goodness, that was. I didn't realize how tough it was going to be. I mean, because he. But over time and seeing other people come in, it's just been a fantastic experience. And I know you like to do other things too. Like you like to take groups camping and canoeing and there's more of that as well. So I think that's just an awesome thing that you do for everybody. Real quick, some of the other entrepreneurial journeys that you've been on. I know what excites you, Will? What do you really like to do?
Probably what I do the most of, what actually pays the bills is real estate.
Yes.
I buy, fix, and flip houses, which I greatly enjoy. I buy and sell land. I broker land for people. I don't really work with buyers a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I do. And most of the real estate I do is my own. So I'm buying and selling and handling income producing properties and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So that's what is sending my kid to college.
Gotcha.
So. And which has been, it's been fun, and I really enjoy it because it's never the same day twice.
Yes.
It's real estate's a very different work in that there's a million flavors of it, and you can do all of it.
Yeah, and it's a wide. I was watching some of your videos there on YouTube. You got everything from marketing the property to dealing with the purchasing person. There's sales. There's handiwork, right? I mean, you got to work with people to come in and do work. There's real estate, and the way that you're doing, like you say, it's not Century 21, and you're working, driving people around, but with the way you're doing it, I think it does. It sounds exciting because you've got so many different aspects of business in that, right?
Yeah, and it's all the levels, and it's it's just like anything else. Sometimes you don't want to deal with the mortgage company, help the mortgage company to understand things, or dealing with Spartanburg County. Sometimes when you're doing stuff, they'll change the rules on you in the middle of the night, and you got to change what you're doing on your land because the rules shifted, and all that stuff. But it's I like figuring it out. I like all right, I got now I got this problem. How am I going to fix that?
Right.
How am I going to now that I can't do that, what can I do? Okay, I can do this. Let's see if that works.
Yeah, keep
That's
the challenge out in front of us.
That's right. And then I have a spray lining business, which is similar to Line-X and Rhino Linings. Me and a buddy of mine own that together, and that's been going well. We do a lot of commercial stuff. We do a lot of commercial trucks and things like that.
Okay. Do their whole fleet.
Yeah, we do. We have a commercial guy, like the big boxes on the back of like contractor trucks that have all the drawers and the flip outs and everything like that. We do a lot. That's our bread and butter. We do pickup trucks and stuff like that too, but our real bread and butter are those. And so that's been fun. I don't think I could do just one thing. I think I'd because some things I do well, and sometimes some of them don't do as well. But I've always said the problem with me is what entertains me and what overwhelms me is only about 3% apart. and so I want to be full, but my full sometimes can easily tick over into overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I am. I can become. I like to have a lot of different things. I'm an energy person, and so that kind of changing channels. Oh, what's this about? Figuring out what this new channel is all about keeps me excited. So we're about the same age. This is my final question. We're about the same age. What's the toughest thing about getting older? We're in our mid-40s. What's the toughest thing about getting older?
Other than your shoulder shutting you down in the middle of the workout. Ooh, man, that's a.
Yeah, I know. I hit you with the deep one there.
Yeah, you should have prepped me on that one.
Man, we were trying to be authentic and real. Remember?
Yeah. I think it's the transitioning roles.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of it is every stage. Like with my kids, I'm like, okay, I got when they were babies, I'm like, I didn't kill them.
Yeah, they survived.
Good. They survived. They did not catch on fire. Okay, I'm winning. All right. Then they're toddlers, and like, okay, still kind of just that. Got them to young children. Got them to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, the whole thing. And but on every level, I'm like, this is the time that I get found out that I don't know what I'm doing. It's like they hit to like when my daughter was first. When she hit 13, I'm like. Here, okay. The gig's up. I'm, it's all going to come apart. But I've been very lucky the whole way through that it's gone well. But it was just always, it's just like you said, it's always the fear. It's the fear of the next thing. And so, the hardest part for me is always saying, okay, I don't get to be the 10-year-old kid dad anymore. That guy's dead now because neither one of them were that age. And as great as that was, I got to let that go.
That's right.
I cannot go back there. I can't hold them there, and I can't go back there. And so, all right, now I got to go. I got to figure out what this next thing is, and it's great. It's always been wonderful, but it's just like every time you're letting go of that one rung to grab the next one, and it's like just for a second in between, you got nothing in your hands.
That's right.
And so and now I've got older parents that I'm becoming kind of helping them out, and so just figuring out what my purpose is in the next phase is always complicated.
Man, I love, hey, you weren't prepared for it, but I love that answer, man. And the thing I love about talking to people, meeting new people, of course, we know, this has been great to sit down with you and talk. So I know you through F3, but getting to know you more, you think you're a human just like the average dude, right? I mean,
Yep.
and you have that fear of, oh my God, I'm going to be found out that I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody, it's a new phase, right?
Yeah.
Just like you said, hey, am I going to break this baby? How am I supposed to hold this baby? I can't take care of this. I can barely take care of myself. Well, you got to do it, right?
That's right.
Hey, Melissa Springer, we've already got our validation. We got one comment. Thank you for the discussion today. Good stuff.
Winning already.
We're ready for the big time, Will. But hey, man, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. This was fun.
All right. See ya.